Welcome to Mastering Your Monday podcast, and this is the show that talks about boundaries, work-life balance, and living a life where you have control. This is for highly driven professionals who want to develop a more balanced professional and personal life and live out their true values. Those who are ready to grab the reins and change the status quo. The professional who's ready to have a life again and who's ready to take a stand, living in a way that you feel respected, valued, and fulfilled each and every day. We talk about topics like setting boundaries, taking risks, life management, and all the tips, techniques, and strategies to help you master your Monday, one day at a time. One of the biggest culprits to stealing our joy, crushing our confidence, and questioning our value is comparison. And yet, it seems to flood our lives in just about every arena. At work and how someone else is performing, at home, how good someone else's whatever is, and family, who's loved more. Even when we have fun, I wish I could blank like that. Go ahead, fill in the blank. We hang our value on someone else's sizzle reel. I love a great conversation. So come on, pull up a chair, ringside that is, and let's talk the real deal today on episode 20, what to do when comparison is the culprit. What's for you is for you. Simple as that. How many times have you heard that saying? What's for you is for you. But it doesn't feel that great when someone else seems to be killing it. You are working your butt off, doing all the right things, and still you don't seem to be getting there. Or if you are moving forward, you feel like you are on a slow boat to China, like you're the turtle and the tortoise and the hare. But what I have learned is all that glitters is not gold. And in most instances, everything isn't all it's cracked up to be. And even if it was, most of the time, I don't know the whole story or the journey that someone else took to get to where I thought I wanted to be. There usually is a story behind the story. And when I do find out the story, more times than not, I know in my heart I couldn't even, or I wouldn't do or go through what they had to endure to make what they are now in happen. I remember someone saying to me once, be careful what you wish for, or be careful what you ask for. But even if this isn't the case and it just wasn't for me, what then? How do you wrestle with that? How do you keep the feelings of hurt, frustration, and that sense of failure at bay? Well, it starts with asking a few questions and being honest with ourselves. You're going to hear me say that a lot. It always seems to starts with the question. And I know I always have a question or two, don't I? And you know what? That's the only way to find the answers. So, two vital questions come in mind in this instance when we're talking about comparison. Do you really want what you think they have? What exactly, and this is part of that first question, do you really want what you think they have? What exactly about what they have is drawing you? Is it what they have or what you perceive they have? And are you prepared to handle what comes with what they have? You know, people with fame, a lot of time when you get instant fame, it's not all it's cracked up to be, or there are aspects of it that you didn't even know. And then there are things like the lottery. Have you noticed that a lot of people, or most people actually, if you look at the statistics that get or win the lottery, often in the first few years, end up right back where they were. They lose absolutely everything. And there are things that they didn't even count on having in their life, things like being on the mic under the microscope. Everybody watching what they do, how they do it, and all that sudden attention, something they've never had to deal with before and don't even know how to deal with. And if you're an honest person or a trusting person and you feel like everyone has your best interest in heart, and how hurt and frustrated you get when you find out that isn't the case, and the demands on people that you never even knew were in your life, cousins that you never knew before, family members that you didn't know, people who say they're here to help you, lawyers and everything, and you think you can trust them because you think because of their position or their profession that that you should be able to trust them, and you find out that they're not all they're cracked up to be. Are you ready to handle that? And the other thing is, a lot of times when we don't get what other people's have, or when we find ourselves comparing ourselves, all that does is fuel our insecurities. The thing is, when we take our eyes off of our goal, our focus, the things that until you started comparing yourself to someone else actually excited you and that you were fine with, when you take your eyes off of that, you start to doubt your ability. You start to doubt your capability. And even if you're on the right journey, if you're on the right track, if what you thought you want before is what you want now, because what someone else has seems, and I want to reiterate that one word, seems to be so much better and more than what you have. You know, my mom always said, the grass ain't always greener. When we compare ourselves to other, it fuels our insecurities and takes our eyes off of the prize. It actually causes us to stall in our journey and sometimes even veer off the path that we were so set on going, that we knew was actually right for us. We start to question our abilities and our sanctity and our sanity. When we find ourselves, lost and dissatisfied, you begin to lose hope and faith in the validity of what you're doing. And you begin to question who you're becoming. Comparison is like a deadly virus that has the ability to steal your joy and to distort your truth. What once was so clear to you starts to get cloudy and confusion, and second guessing is all you have. All because you got distracted and you moved your focus off of what was originally supposed to be just a glance. So you moved your focus, and what you were supposed to just glance at became a long stare. And you started focusing on that instead of what was right in front of you. You see, there is nothing as destructive about that stare. There is nothing destructive about looking at what others do, is what I'm saying. You see, there is nothing destructive about looking what others do, learning from them, and even celebrate them. However, is when we start to long for what they have, when we start to envy the differences in their journey and yours. That's when the poison of comparison begins to do its damage. So, how do we stop that flow of that poison called comparison? We start by getting a realistic understanding of who we are and what we truly want. You see, there is a way to stop comparing yourself to others. You have to do simple things like list your strengths and your accomplishment. And I mean, really write them down so that when You can't recall them. You open the pages of a book and you read them, and they will remind you. What are you good at? Write it down. What talents do you have? Write it down. What skills are you great at? Skills that you've learned and now you have mastered. Write them down. What are others always complimenting you on? Things that come natural to you. Write it down. What awards have you gotten? Accolades do you have? Take a picture of them and write them down. What thank yous have you received? Especially those that came out of nowhere that you weren't even expected and you weren't looking for. Write them down. And what things have you completed? It's great to always have things that you started, but look at the things you have completed. And then I encourage you to remember, what's your special sauce? What makes you, you? What makes you unique? Some may even say weird, different, strange, special. I say special, but not in the way that others might. What makes you unique? Again, write it down. What comes so natural to you that it baffles you how you do it? You just do it. Write it down. It reminds me of my daughter. There is something about her that simply baffles my mind. This girl has a way of communicating with people that just brings them out of the woodwork. She talks to people everywhere. It's her smile and how she invites them in and just lights them up. Is her concern, and they automatically feel her compassion and care for them. And they tell her things that, wow, they told you that? And they share things with her and they invite her into things just because she takes the time to communicate her compassion and care for others. It comes so natural to her. And it's not something you can learn. It's who she is and why she's so unique. And what lights you up and you can do all day long. What excites you? What inspires you? Write it down. Above all, let yourself be the gauge. Don't compare yourself with others, but compare yourself to you. In this case, it's not comparison. The only person you should be comparing yourself with is you. Because what you're doing is you're looking at your progress, how you've gotten better, what lessons you've learned. Are you the same person that you started out, or have you grown? Is it comparison or is it growth? I encourage you to give yourself grace. Look, none of us, absolutely none of us are perfect. So allow yourself breathing space to make mistakes. And if you find it hard to not compare yourself to others, put your blinders on. How? If you must, stay off social media. Stop watching TV. Don't put yourself in situations you know that will start you comparing yourself and taking your eyes off your focus. Keep your eyes forward and listen to your trusted front row, those that you know have your best interest at heart and are there to encourage, uplift you, but also tell you the truth. This is how we deal with the culprit of comparison. This is what we do when comparison is the culprit. I am so glad you were able to hang out with me today on our ringside chat. You know, I am going to say, you are amazing. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit subscribe or follow so that you don't miss an episode, not one single episode. And one more thing I want you to do, and that's visit masteringyourmonday.com/pathway. And that's where you'll find my goodies and gifts just for you. I also want to encourage you to rate and review this show, especially if you're on iTunes and Apple Podcasts. Please rate and review. Make sure to let me know how I can serve you further. And masteringyourmonday.com/pathway is the place to do that. Until next time, take care and remember, master every day like it's your Monday. Bye-bye. I want to thank you for listening to the Mastering Your Monday podcast. I hope you learned at least one tip or technique you can walk away with and implement today. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show, and let us know how much you enjoyed it and what you learned from this episode. We honor your time and your commitment to Mastering Your Monday podcast. And as always, we want to remind you, you are cherished, respected, valued, and in control. See you on the next episode.